In these problems, we're going to look at the law of sines and cosines to help us to solve for some missing sides of some triangles. So in this one, we're going to start with the law of sines. It says to solve the triangle, which means to find every missing side and angle. Let's start out with part A. We know that we want angle A, and we can use our 180 rule. Angle A would be 180 minus the 104 and the 45 that are already in the triangle. So we know that's 41. Now, as soon as we have a pair of information, so when I say a pair, B and angle B, that's a pair. We're going to use that information to help us find the other pieces of missing information. So we know that the sine of B, 45 degrees, over side B equals the sine of A over little a. And now that we know that A is 41 degrees, we can put that in and solve for side A. Now, to solve it, it's just a proportion. Use cross multiplication, and we find that A is 15.77. Now, we can do the same thing again, but this time our missing variable would be side C. So we'd have the sine of 45 over 17, again, that repeats itself, is the sine of 104 over little c. And then when we cross multiply there, we know that c is 23.33. Now let's try part B. Now part B, you want to draw the triangle out. Just draw any triangle, label it ABC, just as reference, not to scale. So this is 38 degrees, and so this would be little a. This is 74 degrees, this would be little b, and we know that little c is 29.1. Now, we don't necessarily have a pair right now, but we can use the 180 rule again. Angle C is 180 minus 74 and 38, which would be 68 degrees. So now we're going to set up the law of sines. So I know that sine of 74 over b equals the sine of 68 over 29.1. So these are using our B information, and this is our C information. I'm going to solve for B. Now to solve for B, just cross multiply, and we get that B is approximately 30.17. And then if we do for the little a we don't know, that would be the sine of 38 over a equals the sine of 68 over 29.1. Again, you want to cross multiply. It's approximately 19.32. So for 34, again, they've given us this information. Just draw yourself a triangle. Doesn't have to be to any sort of scale. Put on your A, B, and C. Now, for 12 degrees and 30 minutes, that's 12.5 degrees, so that's what I'm going to use. So I'll put that in there for B. They told me that A was 13, the side A, and B was 10. Now we're missing quite a bit of information for this one. Just go ahead and look at the pair we have. We have a pair, the B's are a pair, so they've given us a pair. As soon as they've given us a pair, we can look for some information. So let's find angle A. So I know that sine A over little a is the sine of angle B over little b. And that becomes a proportion. Now, when we cross multiply, you get that the sine of A equals 0.2814, Now you need to find angle A. So angle A is 16.34 degrees. Now, as soon as you have two angles, use your 180 rule. So angle C is 180 minus off 12.5 and 16.34. So in this case, angle C is 151.16 degrees. Now, the last piece of information we don't know side C. So I'm going to use the law of sines one more time. So sine of C over C equals sine of B over B. Now we actually know angle C right now, so let's put that in there. We found that was 151.16. And then if we cross multiply, we get that C's side length is 22.29. We're going to skip 35 and we're going to move on to 36. Now for 36, we're going to use the law of cosines. Now the reason we know we need to use the law of cosines is because we are not given a pair of any two things. So that tells us to use the law of cosines. For part A, I am going to use that to find little a. So a squared equals b squared minus c squared, plus c squared, minus 2bc cosine of angle A. And so we would plug in the information we know. That would be a squared equals 19 squared plus 38 squared minus 2 times 19 times 38 times the cosine of 30 degrees. Now when you do that, just make sure you follow order of operations. You get that a squared is 554.46, so a is 23.55. Now we also need to find angle B. Now we have a pair, so we can use the law of sines or cosines, either one, but I'm going to use the law of sines. So I know that the sine of A over A, wait a second, I put them in the wrong spot here. The sine of angle A over side A equals the sine of angle B over little b. So that's how we could solve for the sine of B. We find that the sine of B is approximately 0.4034, and then you solve for B using the inverse sign. It's about 1.86 degrees. Now, once we find that, we've got to find what C is, but C is just going to be 180 minus off 30 and 1.86. And so C would be approximately 148.14 degrees. So for this one, probably draw an ABC triangle. Put in what you know. And let's see if we have a pair. Now we don't have a pair of things, so we are going to have to use the law of cosines. So since we have angle A, let's start out with angle A, or that formula that has angle A in it. Now, for this one, we don't know side A, but since we know angle A, we can just calculate that. Again, be careful, watch your order of operations. So we get that a squared is 212.26. Square root it, then it's 14.57. Now we have a pair, so we can do the law of sines. So we know sine of 100 over side A, 14.57, equals sine of B over little b, which is 9. So we get that the sine of B is approximately 0.6083. And then you would inverse sine to find what B is, which is 37.47 degrees. Now, to find C, just choose your 180 rule. So it'd be 180 minus 100 minus 37.47, and it's approximately 42.53 degrees, and then we have everything.